Tempest in Teyvat, Rimuru's Elemental Odyssey by KabirSingh808. Whispers of the Wind, a new alley. As the soft light of dawn began to break through, Rimuru stirred from his sleep. The campfire had long since burned out, leaving only the faint warmth of embers. He glanced over to see the traveler still asleep, and Paimon curled up in a ball, her stomach rising and falling gently. Rimuru stretched, enjoying the peaceful moment before the world fully awoke. After a moment, the traveler also began to stir, blinking as the first rays of sunlight touched their face, and before long, they gently shook Paimon awake. The floating companion grumbled and rubbed her eyes, clearly not eager to leave the comfort of sleep. "Come on, Paimon. Time to get moving," the traveler said with a smile, helping her float upright. Meanwhile, Rimuru had already gathered some fresh fish, using the same fishing rod from the night before. Thanks to Ciel's assistance, he had quickly caught enough to make breakfast. The scent of cooking fish soon filled the air, prompting Paimon to perk up immediately. Paimon's awake now," she exclaimed, drawn toward the food like a moth to a flame. After they finished their meal, the trio packed up and began heading back toward the forest where Rimuru had first landed. The path ahead was peaceful, and the gentle rustling of the leaves gave the day a calmness that Rimuru found strangely comforting. But just as they were about to enter the forest, something odd caught their attention, a strange, metallic device standing amidst the foliage, faintly glowing. Its unusual design immediately piqued their curiosity. "What's that?" Rimuru asked, getting a bit closer for a better look. The traveler, equally curious, approached the device. "It looks ancient, but what does it do?" Without thinking, the traveler reached out and touched it. Almost instantly, the device began to glow brightly, emitting a soft hum. The light intensified, and strange symbols started to appear across its surface. Rimuru immediately went on guard, his instincts flaring. "Ciel, analyze this now." Ciel's voice echoed in his mind, calm but quick. "Analyzing. It appears to be a mechanism of sorts. Its energy readings are unfamiliar, but it doesn't seem immediately dangerous, at least not yet." "It's some kind of mechanism," Rimuru explained, watching the device warily. Paimon floated beside them, nervously eyeing the glowing device. "Oh, Paimon's seen things like this scattered all over Teyvat. They're strange devices, but we never really figured out what they do." Rimuru's frown deepened. The fact that Ciel couldn't fully analyze it and Paimon didn't know its purpose made him uneasy. They had no idea if the mechanism was harmless or something far more dangerous. "Let's stay away from it," Rimuru warned, stepping back. "We don't know what it can do, and I'm not taking any chances." The traveler nodded in agreement, taking a step back from the now glowing device. "You're right. It could be a trap or something worse." Paimon floated a little higher, clearly happy to put distance between herself and the mysterious mechanism. Paimon agrees. "Let's leave it alone before something crazy happens." With one last glance at the device, they turned and resumed their journey, making their way into the forest. Rimuru remained on edge, silently vowing to be more careful of any other strange artifacts scattered throughout this world. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the lush greenery around them seemed to stretch endlessly. Rimuru kept his senses sharp, though he felt more at ease with Ciel's guidance and the company of the traveler and Paimon. After walking for a while, they stumbled upon a patch of strange, red berries growing near some vibrant flowers. "Oh, look at these!" Paimon exclaimed, floating toward the small berries hanging from the bushes. Paimon's seen these before. They're great for snacks. Rimuru crouched down to inspect the berries. "Are they safe to eat?" Paimon nodded enthusiastically. "Yep, these are sunsetias. Super sweet and tasty. And look." She pointed to the nearby flowers, their petals soft and glowing faintly in the light. "Those are sweet flowers. They're great for cooking. They add a really nice sweetness to dishes." With Paimon's guidance, they gathered a few berries and flowers, tucking them away for later. Rimuru couldn't help but appreciate the usefulness of the small floating companion. Her knowledge of the land was proving quite handy. As they moved forward, the trees began to thin out, and the dense forest gradually gave way to a wide clearing. Ahead, a small cliff overlooked a breathtaking view. In the distance, the city of Mondstadt came into view. Its tall windmills spun gently in the breeze, and a towering statue of a figure with outstretched arms stood at the city's heart, overlooking the landscape. Rimuru paused, taking in the sight of the city below. What's that city? He asked, his curiosity piqued. Paimon floated up beside him, proudly pointing toward it. That's Mondstadt, the city of freedom. It's protected by the Anemo Archon, Barbados. Rimuru considered the name for a moment. Anemo Archon. Paimon nodded. Yep. Barbados is one of the seven, the god of wind. Mondstadt's all about freedom, and the people there worship him. We're headed there because the city is full of bards, and they travel all over. We figured one of them might have information or help us on our journey. Bards, huh? Rimuru mused. It sounds like Mondstadt is a good place to gather information. Paimon grinned. Exactly. Plus, there's good food, and the city's really lively. As they stood on the small cliff, taking in the breathtaking view of Mondstadt in the distance, the traveler's gaze shifted to something off to the side. A smaller statue, standing just below them, caught his attention. Pointing his finger at it, he asked, "What's that statue down there?" Rimuru followed the traveler's gesture and noticed the statue, a smaller version of the massive one in the city. Its design was intricate, featuring a figure with wings, arms outstretched as if blessing the land. That statue looks a lot like the one in Mondstadt, Rimuru remarked, his curiosity piqued. Paimon floated down toward the statue, nodding. Oh, that's a statue of the seven. This one's dedicated to Barbados, the Anemo Archon. Statues like this are scattered all over Teyvat. Each region has statues dedicated to their respective gods, she continued, explaining with a sense of pride. People often pray to these statues for blessings. It's said that the gods can hear their prayers, and some believe they receive protection or guidance in return. Rimuru studied the statue more closely. The idea of people seeking blessings from gods felt similar to what he had seen in other worlds, though the existence of these statues seemed to hold a deeper cultural significance here. Paimon turned to both Rimuru and the traveler, her tone becoming a bit more serious. Before we go any further into Mondstadt, you two should definitely pray to the statue. It's always a good idea to receive God's blessing when entering their land. The traveler glanced at Rimuru, then back at the statue. After a moment's consideration, he nodded in agreement. Rimuru, though less inclined to pray, felt it wouldn't hurt to respect the customs of this new world. All right, let's do it, Rimuru agreed, stepping closer to the statue alongside the traveler. As they approached the statue, they noticed something odd. There was a large lake separating them from it. The statue itself stood tall, right in the middle of the water, its serene form reflected in the surface. Paimon, unaffected by the obstacle, simply floated across the water toward the statue, waving back at Rimuru and the traveler. Come on, you'll have to swim over here, she called out. Rimuru stopped at the edge of the lake, glancing down at the water. Wait, won't that make our clothes wet? He asked, not exactly excited about the idea of being soaked for the rest of the day. Paimon shrugged, hovering in the air without a care. Well, you don't have much of a choice. There's no other way to get to the statue. Rimuru considered his options. Can't I just use my wings? He thought, an idea forming in his mind. However, before he could act, Ciel's voice quickly chimed in his head. Master, I suggest hiding your wings for now, Ciel advised. They resemble bat wings, and given the nature of this world, people might associate you with demons or other dark entities. That could lead to unnecessary problems. Rimuru frowned slightly, understanding the logic behind her words. The last thing he needed was to draw unwanted attention. He let out a sigh, looking over at the traveler, who had already started swimming across the lake without hesitation. It seemed like there was no avoiding it. Well, there goes my easy solution, Rimuru muttered as he reluctantly stepped into the water. With little choice, Rimuru swam across the lake, following the traveler's lead. The water was cold but refreshing, and soon enough, he reached the other side, where the statue stood tall at the lake's center. Together, they looked up at the majestic figure, its outstretched wings casting a long shadow over the calm waters. This is it, Paimon said softly, her voice filled with reverence. The statue of Barbados. As they gathered around the statue, Ether hesitated for only a moment before stretching out his hand. He placed it on the surface of the statue of the seven, and immediately, something began to happen. The statue started glowing, a soft but radiant light emanating from it. Rimuru's eyes widened as he felt a surge of energy in the air. Ciel, ever alert, analyzed the situation in an instant. Master, be cautious. A large amount of anemo energy is accumulating around the statue and the traveler. Ciel's voice was urgent in Rimuru's mind. Without thinking, Rimuru acted, rushing forward to pull Ether away from the glowing statue. But just as he reached out to grab him, the energy seemed to subside on its own. The light dimmed, and the overwhelming presence of anemo energy dispersed. Ether stood there, unharmed, but his appearance had changed. His clothing, once a muted hue, now had hints of light green, a color that mirrored the winds themselves. Rimuru paused, taking in the transformation. What just happened? Rimuru muttered under his breath, still tense from the sudden energy surge. Before he could think further, Paimon zipped over to Ether, circling around him in awe. Whoa, Ether, you've gained the power of anemo, she exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. Ether looked down at his own clothes, a bit surprised himself, but calm as always. It's not common for someone to gain powers from a statue, Paimon continued, turning to Rimuru. But Ether isn't from this world, so that's probably why the statue responded to him. Rimuru's interest was piqued. Not from this world, he thought, feeling a strange connection between Ether's situation and his own. He wondered what kind of power he might gain if he were to do the same. Paimon jumped in excitement, her little wings fluttering with glee. Wow, Ether, you got powers from the statue. This is amazing, she exclaimed, circling around him like a whirlwind of enthusiasm. Ether chuckled, still adjusting to his new abilities. As Ether reveled in his newfound power, he turned to see Rimuru stepping forward. With a curious expression, Rimuru placed his hand on the statue of the seven, mirroring Ether's earlier gesture. Almost instantly, a vibrant glow surrounded him, and the energy began to swirl between him and the statue. The bright light enveloped Rimuru, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Then, just as quickly, the energy subsided. Rimuru took a deep breath and opened his eyes, feeling a surge of awareness wash over him. To his astonishment, he began to hear distant sounds, the cheerful chirping of birds, the rustle of leaves, and the scurrying of small animals, even though they were far from the forest and there were no trees in sight. What's happening? Rimuru asked, tilting his head slightly as he listened to the lively symphony around him. Ciel's voice chimed in, her tone filled with clarity. Master, it appears your sensory powers have significantly increased. You can now hear things from a greater distance, as if the winds themselves are carrying these sounds to you. Additionally, you have the ability to manipulate anemo energy. Rimuru's eyes widened in realization. He felt a connection to the very air around him, a power flowing through him that he had never experienced before. He closed his eyes for a moment, imagining the wind swirling around him, and to his surprise, a gentle breeze began to dance playfully in the air. Whoa, you can control the wind now, too, Paimon exclaimed, flying up to Rimuru's face and bouncing excitedly. Congratulations, Rimuru. Just like Ether, you've got anemo powers. Rimuru couldn't help but smile at Paimon's infectious enthusiasm. Thanks, Paimon. It feels different, but in a good way, he replied, testing the newfound connection he had with the winds. Ether watched the exchange, a warm feeling spreading through him. Looks like we both have a lot in common and a lot to learn about our new abilities, he said, grinning at Rimuru. As Rimuru smiled towards Ether, he felt a sense of camaraderie forming between them. Yes, we definitely have many things in common, he said, his tone light. Ciel's voice broke through the moment. Master, I have started analyzing the anemo power. You can now manipulate anemo energy, which can be utilized for both attack and defense, she informed him, her tone analytical. Rimuru's curiosity piqued. That sounds amazing, but is there a limit to how much anemo energy I can use? Ciel hesitated for a moment. Yes, there is a limit, but I don't yet know the exact reason. I will continue my analysis to find the answer, she replied, her determination evident. Rimuru nodded, accepting her explanation. Thank you, Ciel. I appreciate your hard work. At that moment, Paimon's voice piped up, filled with longing. I wish I could use power like that. It must be so cool. Rimuru turned to her with a reassuring smile. You don't need to worry about that, Paimon. Ether and I will protect you, no matter what. Paimon's eyes lit up, and she beamed at him. Really? That makes me so happy. After taking a last glance at the statue of the seven, they continued on their journey, moving through the enchanting whispering woods that Paimon had named. The gentle sounds of the forest surrounded them, making for a serene atmosphere. As Rimuru, Ether, and Paimon walked ahead from the statue, Rimuru suddenly felt a surge of elemental power in the sky, far greater than anything he had sensed before. The air around them felt charged, and his new anemo powers, obtained from the statue, were reacting to this overwhelming presence. Ciel's voice echoed in his mind. Warning: a significant concentration of anemo energy has been detected overhead. Furthermore, someone is approaching from above. Rimuru instinctively looked to the sky. A massive shadow passed overhead, the unmistakable silhouette of a dragon soaring through the clouds. The creature descended with a majestic, yet ominous presence, landing deep within the heart of the forest ahead. Paimon gasped in awe. Is that a dragon? Rimuru, intrigued, muttered under his breath, so, this world has dragons too, interesting. Turning to Ether, Rimuru said, let's go. And without hesitation, he broke into a sprint toward the forest. Ether and Paimon quickly followed, curious about the dragon and its connection to the elemental powers they sensed. When they neared the dragon, they took cover behind the dense foliage, carefully observing. The massive creature stood in a clearing, its scales glinting under the sunlight, radiating anemo energy that filled the air with a subtle breeze. Rimuru's gaze sharpened as he noticed a boy standing near the dragon, speaking in soft, calming tones. It was clear the boy had a connection with the dragon. Ciel's voice returned. Alert! The anemo energy within you is attempting to synchronize with that of the boy and the dragon. I have temporarily suppressed the reaction. Rimuru focused his attention on Ether, only to notice a sudden shift in the air between Ether and the dragon. The anemo energy around the dragon and Ether start reacting with each other. A surge of energy caused a subtle ripple in the atmosphere, which did not go unnoticed. The dragon's head snapped toward them, its piercing eyes locking onto their hidden position. With a thunderous roar, it launched a devastating strike toward the boy who was talking to the dragon. The boy, agile and experienced, narrowly evaded the attack, vanishing from sight as if he'd never been there. The dragon, angered and alarmed, took to the skies once more, its powerful wings sending gusts of wind throughout the forest as it flew off into the distance. After the dragon's departure, Rimuru turned to Paimon, curiosity lingering in his gaze. Do you know anything about that dragon? Paimon, still shaken by the encounter, shook her head. Nope, not a clue. That was the first time I've ever seen something like that. Super scary though. Ether, equally intrigued, asked, is it normal for people here to talk to dragons? Paimon puffed out her cheeks. Are you kidding? Of course not. Dragons aren't exactly the friendliest creatures around here. That guy must have had some special connection with it. As they discussed, Rimuru's keen senses picked up a faint glimmer on the ground nearby. Their eyes were drawn toward a strange, red, tear-shaped stone that sparkled ominously in the grass. The stone seemed to pulsate with energy, though something about it felt wrong. What's that? Paimon asked, floating closer, her curiosity getting the best of her. Rimuru crouched down and examined the stone, focusing his senses. Ciel, can you analyze this? Ciel's voice echoed in his mind almost immediately. Analysis complete. The stone is overflowing with elemental energy, but it is heavily tainted with impurities. It appears to be connected to the dragon's anemo energy, though in a corrupted form. Rimuru frowned, realizing the significance of the impurities. Can I purify it? Negative, Ciel responded calmly. The only ability capable of purifying such deep corruption would be your void god Azathoth. However, at present, that ability remains sealed. Rimuru sighed in mild frustration, his usual calm demeanor holding. Looks like I can't do much about it right now. Before he could say anything further, Paimon hovered closer and plucked the stone off the ground, examining it with curiosity. Well, if it's important, we should probably hold onto it. You never know when something like this might come in handy. Rimuru gave her a quick glance but didn't protest as Paimon tucked the crystal away. Alright, let's keep moving. The group continued deeper into the forest, the dense canopy above them gradually thinning as they approached the edge. After a short walk, they emerged from the forest into a wide clearing. The sunlight bathed the open area in a warm glow, a sharp contrast to the shadowy, mysterious atmosphere they had just left behind. As they reached the end of the Whispering Woods, Rimuru suddenly stopped, his senses tingling. Wait, someone is coming, he said, his voice low and steady. Ether and Paimon exchanged glances, both alert. What do you mean? Ether asked, readying himself. Rimuru drew his katana, its blade shimmering under the soft light filtering through the trees. I hear footsteps approaching quickly. We need to be prepared. Just as he spoke, the footsteps grew louder, and the tension in the air thickened. Ether mirrored Rimuru's stance, both of them poised for any potential threat. Then, out of the underbrush, a girl leapt into their path. She landed gracefully, her eyes wide with surprise. Whoa, who are you guys? She exclaimed, halting their preparations. Rimuru relaxed his grip on his katana slightly but remained on guard, while Ether took a step closer, intrigued by the unexpected newcomer. The girl stood confidently in front of them, her voice ringing out with a polite yet energetic greeting. May the Anemo god protect you, stranger. She smiled before introducing herself. I'm Amber, outrider for the Knights of Favonius. Her eyes scanned them curiously. Who are you, and what are you doing out here? You don't look like locals. Rimuru, sensing her sincerity and duty, stepped forward with a polite nod. We're travelers, making our way to Mondstadt. I'm Rimuru, and this is the traveler and Paimon. He gestured towards Ether and Paimon, who both smiled in return. Amber relaxed a little but quickly regained a serious tone. Ah, so you're travelers. But unfortunately, you haven't arrived at the best time. Her expression darkened slightly as she looked over her shoulder toward the distant skies. There's a large dragon roaming nearby, and it's hostile. You should come with me to the city as soon as possible. It's not safe out here. Rimuru, Ether, and Paimon nodded in agreement, recognizing the potential danger of wandering too close to a hostile dragon. They followed Amber, who led them through the forest with practiced ease. As they walked, Amber suddenly stopped and turned back to them. I need to take care of a few things first before I can lead you all to Mondstadt. Paimon floated closer, curiosity brimming. What do you need to do? Amber pointed toward a nearby area. There's a hilichurl camp nearby. I need to clear it out before heading back to the city. Hilichurls. Rimuru and Ether echoed in unison, their interest piqued. Paimon, always quick to explain, hovered between them and nodded. Hilichurls are these weird, monster-like creatures that roam around the land. They're pretty hostile and tend to attack people. Amber gave a nod of confirmation. Exactly. They've been causing trouble for travelers and locals alike, so it's part of my duty to keep the area safe. She readied her bow with a determined look. It shouldn't take too long. If you'd like, you can help me. Ether and Rimuru exchanged glances, intrigued by the prospect of encountering these creatures and wanting to assist. Rimuru gripped his katana, ready for action. We'll help. It's the least we can do. Ether nodded in agreement, pulling out his sword. Let's take care of them quickly. Amber grinned, clearly impressed by their eagerness. Thanks. With your help, this'll be a breeze. As they made their way toward the hilichurl camp, Rimuru's mind wandered to the monsters from his own world. He wondered if the creatures Amber called hilichurls resembled anything from his past encounters. As they arrived at the camp, Rimuru's curiosity was piqued. In front of them stood 4 creatures, barefoot, bare-chested, wearing masks with long ears protruding from each side. Rimuru exchanged a glance with Ether. They nodded to each other, already in sync, ready for battle. Amber moved forward first, her bow at the ready, and the others followed closely behind. Within moments, the camp was cleared, with Rimuru, Ether, and Amber working in perfect harmony to take down the hilichurls. But something strange caught Rimuru's eye. As the creatures fell, their bodies disintegrated into shimmering particles that seemed to fade into the wind. Confused, Rimuru asked, Seal, what's happening? What are these particles? Seal responded quickly in his mind, I've started analyzing the phenomenon, but it will take some time. I'll inform you as soon as I have results. As the dust settled, Amber approached them, a wide smile on her face. You guys are really good with your weapons. Thanks for the help, it went even faster than I thought it would. Rimuru sheathed his katana and nodded. No problem. As they began walking toward the city, Amber glanced back at them, curious. So, why are you all traveling together? It seems like you're on quite the journey. Paimon, always eager to speak, floated beside Amber. Ether is looking for his sister. Before she could continue, Rimuru quickly stepped in. And I'm helping him with his task. That's my main goal for now. Ether glanced at Rimuru, understanding immediately that he was keeping certain details hidden. He gave Rimuru a subtle nod of approval, while Paimon pouted slightly but didn't push the topic further. Amber, satisfied with the answer, continued walking without pressing for more information. Helping each other out, huh? I like that. Amber grinned. Mondstadt is known as the City of Freedom, so you'll definitely find the help you need there. And I will also help you put up posters around the city of your sister.